The trucks rolled in as usual. No noise, no rush, just another shipment of frozen chickens for the cold storage. But something about this load was different. This time, hidden behind the chicken packages, was something else. High-purity cocaine, industrially packaged, sealed, clean, and ready to flood the streets. The police didn't just find one box, they uncovered hundreds of boxes. By the time they realized, 318 shipments had already come through. Over 15 tons of Class A drugs, with a street value exceeding £1 billion right under everyone's noses, without fanfare, without even a single shot fired. All that was visible? A plain warehouse in Redditch, an ordinary house in Leeds, and a sinister network stretching from the streets of Glasgow to Mexican cartels. This is the true story of the largest drug trafficking operation in British history. But how were frozen chickens used to flood the country with cocaine? March 2022. An industrial warehouse in Redditch, Worcestershire. From the outside, you est a grey, nondescript building in a quiet commercial area. No signs, no noise, just silence. But inside this warehouse, the beating heart of a billion-pound drug empire. This story starts far away, in the jungles of South America, where the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, or CJNG, one of the most violent and powerful drug cartels in the world, packages cocaine and ships it to Europe. Now, the cartel's footprint has reached an unassuming warehouse in Britain. Their plan was simple, but ingenious. A Dutch logistics company, without suspecting a thing, delivered 34 shipments of frozen chickens to the Redditch warehouse between March and December 2022. The paperwork? Clean as a whistle. The route? Completely routine, the same as always. Customs? They'd just stamp it and move on. But beneath those frozen chicken packages was a dirty secret. Industrially packaged cocaine, vacuum-sealed, clean, tucked away with unbelievable precision. Not one, not 10, 318 pallets, each carrying 50 kilos of pure cocaine. Do the math, 15.9 tons of cocaine with a street value of £1.59 billion. No hidden walls, no fancy compartments, just a raw, audacious method. Hide the drugs in food boxes and move them in broad daylight, right under everyone's noses. Here, in the heart of the Redditch warehouse, a silent and deadly operation was underway. Boxes were opened, cocaine was pulled out from under the chickens, repackaged and prepared to flood Britain's streets. At the center of this cycle was one man, Tihrath Hussain. He maneuvered his forklift between pallets of chicken, not to move food, but to turn it into Class A drug shipments. Fast, orderly, silent, like a well-oiled machine. But this was just one piece of the puzzle. Who was running this operation? A man 120 miles away, in the heart of Leeds. Stephen Rainey, 31 years old, the mastermind of this empire. This guy never set foot in the warehouse. He didn't need to. From a modest house in Leeds, he controlled everything like a chess grandmaster. Couriers, payments, drug movement orders. All through encrypted phones, no calls, no names, just silent messages. The police later said Rainey was a trusted officer in the UK supply chain. But in his messages, one name kept popping up, FENDI, a pseudonym that police believed linked directly to the Mexican New Generation Cartel. This cartel, with its stamps and codes, marked its ownership on every cocaine package. A silent warning that ensured loyalty through fear. Rainey had a small, tight-knit team, just family and a few trusted associates. Safe houses, a controlled system, near zero risk. But what he was running was anything but small. Detailed lists of dealers, cash flows tied to him, fingerprints on documents, packaging that matched distribution points. Even as the police tightened the net, Rainey tried to keep the game going, as if he thought he could slip through their fingers. But the chain was developing massive cracks. The police had been onto them for a while. Suspicious encrypted traffic, references to high-value shipments, patterns of a massive Class A network. By early autumn 2022, officers began tracking vans leaving the Redditch warehouse. They recorded license plates, noted delivery schedules. Addresses in Leeds, Dewsbury, and Glasgow were under surveillance. Each delivery, like a puzzle piece, made the picture clearer. But the police didn't rush. They waited, watched, and bided their time for the perfect moment. September 10th, 2022. A semi-detached house on Flaxstone Street, Beeston. From the outside, an ordinary home in a neighborhood full of families and school kids. But when the police broke down the door, it was like stepping into another world. This house was a drug processing hub. Sharon Rainey, Stephen's sister, and her partner, Liam Harrington, 39, were running this operation from their bedroom. Unbelievable, right? 132 kilos of cocaine and 35 kilos of crystal methamphetamine with a street value of 19 million pounds. Scales, gloves, sealing machines, dealer lists with initials. Stephen Rainey's fingerprints were on everything. The neighbors? Not a clue, not even for a moment. A month later, October 10th, 2022. The police raided a ground floor apartment in Crescent Ravensthorpe. This was Megan Bourne's place, 23 years old. She wasn't the brains of the operation, but was trusted enough to store drugs. Her partner, Brandon Mann, was Stephen Rainey's courier. His job? Collecting and delivering massive quantities of drugs and cash across the UK. This apartment was just a storage point. No local deals happened here, just holding. When the police broke in, they found 58 kilos of cocaine. Value? 5.8 million pounds. Bags, wardrobes, everything stuffed with drugs. The packaging? Identical to the Redditch warehouse and the Beeston house. Even the cartel's stamps were on them. Now the puzzle was taking shape, but a big piece was still missing. December 15th, 2022. A van left the Redditch warehouse. The driver? Stephen Gibson, 41, from Glasgow. In his van, 3 bags full of freshly packaged cocaine. He headed north and met Darren Hunter, 30, at a secluded spot. The bags were transferred to Hunter's Toyota Corolla. Smooth, professional, like it was their 100th time. But this time, the police were one step ahead. Gibson's van was stopped. 75 kilos of cocaine, worth 7.5 million pounds. Minutes later, Hunter was caught on the M6 motorway. Another 40 kilos. The total from this one operation? 115 kilos of Class A drugs. The police learned Gibson had made at least 10 similar trips, often alone, with massive loads to Scotland and back. Hunter played a supporting role, delivering and moving on. Neither had a drug-related record. Neither was known to the police. But now they were caught with intent to supply. That same day, the police raided the Redditch warehouse. Exactly what they expected. Pallets of frozen chickens, half-opened boxes, bags of drugs waiting by the shuttered doors. The forklift was still running. Tihrath Hussain was arrested mid-task. Couriers were in custody. Safe houses secured. Local operatives identified. Only one thing remained: dismantling the entire network. In the weeks that followed, the police made arrests across multiple cities. Houses were searched, phones seized. The gang's encrypted trail, once ghost-like, was now solid evidence against them. 8 people were charged. Over 1.5 billion pounds worth of cocaine had passed through their hands. This wasn't an amateur gang. It was a silent, efficient, and highly dangerous system. But now, it was over. To find out the court rulings for each of the criminals, stay with me until the end of the video and don't forget to like it. November 10th, 2023, Sheffield Crown Court. 8 members of the network stood stone-faced for sentencing. The prosecutor laid out the case in detail. One of the largest Class A importation cases in British history, a supply line that flooded the country with 15 tons of cocaine. Their motive? Pure profit. A conspiracy on an industrial scale with ruthless efficiency. 3 key seizures were presented to the court: £19 million in the Beeston house, $5.8 million in Dewsbury, and 115 kilos on the M6 motorway. Most defendants had nothing to say. They just pleaded guilty early. Some cited personal circumstances, clean records, or minor roles, but when 15 tons of cocaine hit the market, those excuses fade. The judge said this was one of the most dangerous drug conspiracies the court had seen. The harm from this volume of cocaine? Indescribable. The sentences had to reflect not just the weight of the drugs, but the damage to society. Stephen Rainey, the mastermind, was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Sharon Rainey, his sister, who ran the Beeston house, got 15 years. Her partner, Liam Harrington, received 3 years. Tihrath Hussain, caught mid-task at the Redditch warehouse, got 17 years, the second longest sentence. Brandon Mann, the Dewsbury courier, received 16 years. Megan Bourne, who lent her house for storage, got 2 years. Stephen Gibson, with 75 kilos in his van, was sentenced to 12 years. Darren Hunter, with 40 kilos in his car, got 6 years. The total for these sentences? 117 years in prison. This wasn't a chaotic gang. It was a criminal machine, meticulously dismantled. From frozen chicken boxes in the Redditch warehouse to Britain's largest drug network. A system that operated in the shadows for months was now destroyed under the police spotlight. But one big question lingers. Was this justice, or just a step in a much larger system, larger war? What do you think? Write it in the comments. If this story gripped you, like, share, and hit the bell so you don't miss more mysterious and true stories.